So the newspapers, so-called, they're not there anymore. Most of them are not there. Now, you can see there, the piles of papers that were left there. The expectation was that the targets, the musallis, would pick them up and be brainwashed. Now, these are poorly translated. Most of the contents about the so-called world, that is, the ones that are picked up from non-Bangladeshi language outlets, are completely, brazenly corrupt pieces that have absolutely no compunction about denying racism, denying the existence of imperialism, denying the existence of hatred, and all the rest of it. And these outlets have been operating in Tower Hamlets to various degrees of or kind of volumes, depending on the amount of money they can extract from the council. That is one consistent, evidential source of kind of funding that these outlets got. And it has been said by various people, those who are behind these print outlets, that we are looking at the pictures and frames that I filmed and I photographed on Friday, the 29th of October 2010 in Brick Lane, just outside the Brick Lane Jamia Mosque or Jamia Mosque, or the Central Mosque. That is the meaning of the word Jamia or Jamia, Central Mosque. And the people were targeted to accept the propaganda from, as far as the council was concerned, propaganda for the council. And so this was degeneration, complete degeneration. Now, that one there is no longer in publication. This one probably is, I don't know, but its online presence is still active. And this one is called, let's see what it is called. So you can see the people clutching the papers, and then there is a kind of conversation going on there, and people are doing some other things as well. And these are the papers, yes? So this one is not there anymore. This one, I don't think. If it is, then it would be very difficult to see how it can be justifiably called a newspaper, because it hardly contains anything. And there was a man from Canada. That funded a daily outfit, I think, at one time, published from an address in Whitechapel. And most of these are published from addresses in Tower Hamlets. And Whitechapel is very much one main thoroughfare in Tower Hamlets. And it is, for various historic, cultural, and community reasons, it is still very much inhabited by significant presence of Bangladeshis. Now, these were left there on Fridays outside the mosques. This is the scene outside the Brick Lane Mosque on Friday, the 29th of October 2010. And the so-called mayor election took place in Tower Hamlets in the last 10 days of the month October. So Lutfur Rahman was yet to be kind of shown as the natural leader. Now, what he led the community Two is something that we have been now updating because of the various items of evidence that show that the conservatives are trying to smash or abolish local councils altogether, or at least kind of decommission the councils to an extent that they become totally bogus, false, and do not operate as any way a political or democratic platforms. And they're targeting the local councils that have non-conservative control. And Tower Hamlets has been non-conservative for as long as it has existed. So the Tower Hamlets has been, in terms of the political control, centrally, from 1965, April 1965 is when Tower Hamlets Council, along with the other 32 or 31 boroughs in London, were conjured up from smaller boroughs. And from 1965, April 1965 to now, Tower Hamlets Council has been in controlled by the Labour Party, except for 8 years, from 1986 to 1994, by the so-called SDP Liberal Alliance, which is now the Lib Dems. But the abuse of council funding, council facilities, to promote a particular figure, although it's a very small figure based on Tower Hamlets Council, which is one of 32 boroughs, which is one of 32. Now that is not London at all, but that is the magnification of the image of the person was perpetrated, the criminally plotted kind of a criminally intended kind of operation to de-democratize whatever fragile democracy there was in the borough. And these outlets totally misedited or badly edited or poorly edited outlets of propaganda of the type that you could only imagine to find in Lilliput, in a Lilliput. Now, according to K. Jordan and me, we had long conversations about this state of degeneration. I had been investigating this long before I met K. Jordan, but when I met K. Jordan, it was coincidentally also the time when the attacks were being revived, attacks on the East London and Brick Lane by the City of London were being revived. So K. Jordan, being a fervent opponent of the City of London expansion into Tower Hamlets and East London, agreed with me, and we had a look at the available resources to defend the community. And the resources supposedly included these things, these papers, so-called, or not in numbers, because when I started with K. Jordan, it was, let's say, 10 years before 2010, so at the beginning of the decade. So I started with K. Jordan in the campaign in July 2001. And I published this date and the various events already. And so K. Jordan said that when we discussed Lilliput, and she immediately understood, and it's partly because I wanted to create an image for K. Jordan, who was not Bangladeshi and who didn't know the community from inside in that way, an image that she could readily understood and appreciate and recognize, and that was Lilliput. And in the conversations that we had about these Lilliput publications, it was agreed that I should be writing the book. So she said, write the bloody book. That is the phrase. So the bloody book would be about the Lilliput in Brick Lane, or based around Brick Lane and Whitechapel. And what that means is that these publications were operated by individuals who are literally, to use a colloquial English word, suckers. So they went to the council and they started sucking up to whoever was, in their view, the person that deserved to be sucked up to, so that they would deliver the money to them.